Welcome. I'm Kevin Miller. This is a podcast for your personal evolution. In this episode, challenging core tenets of human belief and consciousness. As humans, we're governed by our core beliefs, many of which we're not really even aware of. There are so many things we believe to be true and so many foundational concepts of our perception that we've never questioned. So in this episode, we're going to question them. Ram Dass was an American spiritual teacher, a psychologist, and a writer. He gained popularity in the early 60s by bringing concepts of consciousness and spirituality from India to America. His book, Be Here Now, is a spiritual classic, sold well over 2 million copies. He actually began as a professor at Harvard before being fired along with Timothy Leary for experimenting and advocating the use of psychedelics. Well, now, for me, as a proper Christian, I was fairly unaware of Ram Dass. That is until the winter of 2024, when my dad, Dan Miller of 48 Days to the Work and Life You Love fame, was diagnosed with cancer. And during the 6 weeks between his diagnosis and his ultimate death, he had little interest in any topic other than spirituality. And one of the people he tuned into was Ram Dass. My brother Jared and my dad would pull up these YouTube videos of Ram Dass. That's when I got my first exposure. My spiritual journey since then has been nothing short of revelatory. And such was my delight then when the giant publisher, Harper, contacted me about doing a show on a new book from Ram Dass. What it ended up being, of course, since he's not alive, is a new book compiled from over 50 talks Ram Dass conducted, and it was compiled and edited by Parvati Markus, who was at Ram Dass's right hand since the beginning, really, of his spiritual leadership back in the 60s. Parvati is an author of many books on spirituality and one of the closest long-term friends to Ram Dass that's ever existed, and just a really prevalent guide herself. In this episode, Parvati joins me, and we talk through the key issues in this book from Ram Dass, such as our human propensity, especially in Western cultures, to think in terms of us versus them. We discuss judgment versus appreciation. We talk about attachments and the danger of the things that we cling to. We spend a lot of time talking about the dangers on that note of identifying with our roles in life, which for much of humanity, again, I think exaggerated in the Western culture, is all we know how to identify with. So the new book that was our muse here that Parvati helped compile from Ram Dass that I've now read twice over, front to back, is called There Is No Other: The Way to Harmony and Wholeness. You can find all you want. Just type in Ram, R-A-M, Das, D-A-S-S. ramdass.org is his website, and you can find all you want there. But coming up next, I talk with Parvati Markus on the key elements from this new book compiled from Ram Dass's teaching, There Is No Other. And for those of you from a spiritual context that may be concerned with some of the things shared here, especially coming from people like Dan Miller, a well-known Christian man, and myself, feel free to connect with me. You can email me, kmiller@kevinmiller.co. Let's evolve ourselves today. Parvati, before getting into the topics of this book that I have great curiosity and interest in, I know some of, but I wanted to ask you to give kind of an intro description of your story and your story with Ram that brought you now to bringing this book forward. As I tell people, I'm reading this new book by Ram Dass. I have to qualify it. It's from his works.
Right. Yes.
They're aware he is not, at least in the flesh, with us right now.
Right.
So give me a little background. Give us a little background on that.
All right. At the party, I met this guy who was playing the guitar in the corner, and I went over to him and he said, "Do you want to go meet a saint?" And 3 weeks before I would say, "No, they just don't exist. Forget about it." But because of the trip, and my experience, I said, "Sure, why not?" So the next day we drove down to New Hampshire, where Ram Dass was staying at his father's farm at that time, his father's gentleman farm, I should say. Mm-hmm. And Ram Dass was standing outside the house when we drove up, wearing his sort of white dress, with his beard and his long mala in his hand and bare feet. And I looked at him and all I could see was light coming from him. And I was straight. I hadn't smoked anything. I hadn't dropped anything. We are talking the 60s, people.
Right, right.
And all I could see was light. And he said to us, well, go talk to the people that are around. And this evening we'll all get together in the barn and talk. So we went around and met. There were just maybe a dozen people that were sort of out in the woods, and each one I met, it was like, who are you? Where do I know you from? Where did you go to school? Where did you go to camp? Why do I know you? These are the people who turned out to be, Krishna Das and Rameshwar Das and all of these other members of my tribe, the people that I am closest to in my entire life. And it was just blowing my mind because these were strange people. They were walking around going, namaste. I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't know what was going on. And that evening we got together with Ram Dass, and Ram Dass was talking about how he had taken acid thousands of times and you still had to come down, and that he had gone to India and he had learned that there were ways basically to get high and stay high without drugs. I said, I'm in. And the next day moved in. And 3 days later, I became his secretary. He said, can anybody here type? Raised my hand. The one good course I took in high school was typing. Yeah. And, and he had come back from India from his first trip to India in 1968. And during the past year, he had spoken at various places around the country. Not a lot at that point, but enough that people were sending him snail mail back in the day. All right. And he would be answering on a cassette machine, and I'd be sitting in the barn near the typewriter, typing up his responses to people's letters. So I started learning sort of the language and the concepts of my new life by doing that. Other people were out meditating in the woods and fasting and doing yogic practices. I was sitting in the barn typing. And then at the end of that summer, I went to New York because I needed to get a job so I could make money. So eventually I could go to India, because wherever Ram Dass had gotten that light from, I wanted to get that myself. We all, even though at that time he wasn't telling us where to find Maharaji or where to go or anything like that, it just became sort of a knowing that I was going to go to India. So during that time that I was, shortly after coming back from that summer, a friend from college called me up and said, hey, you want to split some acid? So once again, I took a journey. I think it all split on my side. Nothing happened to her, but I went flying off into some initiatory space. And the day after, I was still like now in the lower astral realms. And it was getting scary. So I took out this little black and white picture of Maharaji that Ram Dass had given me, and the New Hampshire pine mala that he had given us that summer. And I sat there doing my mantra, which was, I'm scared and you've got to help me. I'm scared and you've got to help me. Because Ram Dass was off at Lama Foundation at that time, and there were no phones. There was no access to reaching him and getting help to go through this experience I was having. And sure enough, the picture sort of dissolved in light, and I could see Maharaji moving. And it was something that happened just for a second or two, but it was enough for me to know he was there. It was okay to go through whatever it was I needed to go through. And, everything was all right. Needless to say, after that, I got a much larger picture of Maharaji, and I basically lived my life in front of that picture. I spoke to it all the time. I talked, I asked a lot of questions. And once in a while I would feel like he was there, that I could connect to him. And I didn't tell anybody that. Back then you did not tell people you spoke to pictures. They would have put you away someplace, you know. But when I finally did get to India 2 years later, and I finally got to be in front of Maharaji, which, by the way, was with Ram Dass. It was the same time he was back for his second trip in India. And I actually went to my first darshan with Maharaji in Ram Dass's VW bus.
It's amazing.
One of the first things Maharaji said to me was, he used to ask me all sorts of questions. He said, you ask me questions all the time.
It's
It was just
incredible.
He was basically telling me, yes, he'd been in that picture the whole time. He said, you used to talk to my picture all the time. You asked many questions. Yeah.
So you have been immersed in this space for a long time. Culminating, what was the catalyst for then this book? Was it, because I look at it and go, I guess there were teachings from Ram that had not made it to print, and you guys wanted to bring them forth. Is it as simple as that?
Well, after that summer of 69, and I was working in New York, Ram Dass started sending me his handwritten pages, from yellow pads, actually, that became the first part of Be Here Now. So literally the first book I ever worked on was Be Here Now. Okay. And after that, I worked on Dada Mukherjee's books, By His Grace and The Near and the Dear, all of these books that were about Maharaji. And it became my dharma. I mean, one of the things Maharaji had said to me when I was in India was that you used to be Ram Dass's private secretary. He said, now you're mine. And in English, he used to call me private secretary, private secretary. So I took it as my dharma. I mean, this is what I do. I mean, I work on books, many of which I've edited and some of which I've written. So it's been the job he gave me, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I am grateful. I feel like I am, I would say I felt like I was late to the game, but maybe it was just the perfect timing. It was just my journey.
Time. Yes.
Well, and here I am. And so as I showed you, I got the falling apart galley copy of this thing when they first had something in print, because I like the hard copy, and I have marked it up. I had to tape it back up, and finally they sent me the real thing. I'd really like to walk through some of the key components of this, the ones that jump out to me, and we'll see where we go with it. But these are concepts that you have lived for so long. And I'll say that some of them, I have some history with some of them, but it's been in recent times that I have really come to understand a new life experience, ultimately. So if we start off with right away, us versus them. And one of the aspects that came out as Ram explained how we start off and we start to segment, and it's those people. And we start to do that all the way. And he does that from all these big groups all the way down to self. Mm-hmm. And he says, ultimately, we alienate ourselves to ourselves, and even our own being is a them. That, Parvati, has been significant for me. I had looked at myself as I'm just a tool to do things. I just get things. I didn't have a connection with me other than the doing. And so now that initial connection with myself, I would say, has been one of the biggest benefits to my life, and then helping me to connect, I would say, healthfully with anything outside of me, whether that's just the mountains or my kid. So tell me about that. Yeah. The connection to self, that even with the us versus them, I would say I still feel like a lot of us are missing we've got to be an us with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me first say that about the book in general.
Yeah.
I took more than 50 of Ram Dass's talks to put together this information. And it's set up in a way so that it starts out with the us versus them of sort of the practical, this is what's happening to us in society right now.
Yeah.
We are very much in a state of division and polarization. And I wanted to start right off with, okay, how can we reframe that? How can we look at that in a different way? And so the first part is sort of more practical. In other words, how do you go from such heavy judgment to appreciation? How do you look at people differently? How does the other become us? In that sense. The second part of the book is when I go, we also have this division within ourselves. We have that division between head and heart. We have this journey that we need to make from the role we play in the world to the soul of who we are. And then the third part of the book is, well, how do we end these divisions? How do we come into wholeness? And that's where I talk about teachers and satsang, the community of spirit and the support we get from that. And Ram Dass's final teaching, which is loving awareness. So that's sort of the trajectory I wanted to go through with people and bring his teachings along in that direction. But you're talking very much about the us and them within ourselves.
Well, I feel like starting there has helped me then come out and be free somewhat of the disconnect to myself so that I can actually connect with the us of everything else. Yeah.
I got
instead of the they. Well, and I'll tell you, Parvati, I feel like, I'm not going to judge myself, better or worse than anyone, but I came from a very they world. That's what I knew. I grew up in the South, and it was, religion and race, and very much everything was a they. And so coming to this us, reading the book, the picture that came to mind was, imagine a room full of, the hospital room of newborn babies. Mm-hmm. And granted, maybe they're a little different color, but for the most part, it's just, they're all the same kind of parts. They're the same makeup. It's generally just the same thing. And then we come in later with language and expose them to different concepts, and they form beliefs and whatnot. And I really appreciated how you presented, how it was presented in the book. It was almost, again, and this is my vision. It was to come back to that soul. And I was thinking, come back to that newborn baby, a handful of newborn babies. They just look the same. That's what's behind all the persona, the facade, the beliefs, the language, the perspectives. And if I can come to that and realize that we're kind of all the same here, and to love that, even if, and I really appreciate the way that he comes at it. It feels so grounded to me, even if it's somebody I don't really align with. And as he would say, I'm not going to play a game with you, but I love you anyways.
You're right. not going to fall for the game, but hey, you're all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he literally says, I pulled that out. He says, I want to keep the us quality going, even though in this game, you might have to move out. But what a different way as opposed to what you said, what feels like the drastic polarization that if you differ from me, it feels like, what do you think? It feels like if you differ from me, I am by proxy offended and threatened. Mm-hmm. If that's what I take from what we see in the headlines and the social media these days. You?
Yeah. And it's also I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, big time. Right. Rather than looking at somebody and going, they've got their own thing going on. I don't have any right to say their beliefs are wrong. But where is this? Hold on. I can quote something from the book for a moment.
Sure thing.
My job is to work on myself, so I experience the place at which we're us and then honor the diversity and the right of that person to do what they want. But when they start to do something that affects me or another person's rights, then I have to say no. Then I have to work to say no without closing my heart. That's the sequence I go through. I think that's such an incredible formula for where we are right now, in the world. That my job is to work on me. That's my job. And that I want to know the place where we're us. I want to know the place where we're one. And then honor you for your differences, for your unique being, and I don't have a right to say I'm right and you're wrong. But if you do something that is hurting me, that is hurting other people, then I have to say no to you. But I have to do that without closing down.
Well, I appreciate that from an aspect of back to you saying right or wrong. I don't even have to claim that it's wrong. I can just claim that I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay for you to stick a fork in my eye. Just that's a boundary that I have. I'm not okay. So I may stop you from doing that, but can I still, as you said, still have love? Can I still even be connected?
Yeah.
But yeah, as he says, he had one line in there that said, gosh, it was later in the book, you're a liar and a cheat and a scoundrel. I love you, but I'm not going to play with you anymore.
You're right.
It's just such a different, here's what gets me, Parvati. I feel better. Whether or not it helps the other person, I think it does, without, blaming them, accusing them, calling them wrong, whatnot. But to say, God love you, but I love you, but I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I feel better. The peace inside of me is what I continue to tap into, and feel like so much of this, even if it does feel serving and altruistic, gosh, I'm serving myself most with it. Fair? Yeah.
Yeah. And then it goes on to say that, as you work on yourself and you become more open-hearted and more clear of mind, right? There's two things. There's clarity of mind and openness of heart. Right.
Yeah.
And then you become an environment in which another person, if they're ready to, can change. But in the meantime, you have done that work on yourself and you feel better, as you say.
I'm probably going to continue to, I enamor myself these days with the self. And from the self, I go out. So, the next part of the book here, you have from judgment to appreciation. And as I was reading through, I again came back to, if I am going to practice this non-judgment of other people, I've got to start with me. And in my past, I have judged myself most harshly. I kind of thought it was my job. I'm here to be a taskmaster. I'm here to be a drill sergeant. I'm here to hold myself to the grindstone and to judge myself. And yet then I come out here and go, well, I need to be not judgmental and judging others. Man, I've got to start again with self. That was probably the hardest aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I love the line that he says of, what you do is never enough. What you are is always enough.
What you are.
Yeah.
There's a line he has in this aspect of from judgment to appreciation. He says, most of us have used, back on the self, we've used other people's eyes to evaluate ourselves. And that topic, I thought to the topic of validation and affirmation is such a big focus these days, of validating each other and affirming each other. I admit that feels good when somebody does that for me, but when I look to their validation and affirmation, or lack thereof, and evaluate myself from there, I just don't see a lot of merit in it. Does that track?
Yeah. Well, there's a whole thing he talks about how we first become somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually we learn that we can't stand on that, on who that person is we have tried to present ourselves as being, that role that we carry, that personality that we carry. And, as he says, going from role to soul, and from judgment to appreciation, where that especially includes yourself, Let me read this. He goes,
Yeah.
my personality is a style. It's a form to manifest in. You've got to be somebody. Just don't take it too seriously. The soul, you can burrow into it. First, you will have the individual soul, my soul. And as you burrow into it, you get to the soul, the still small voice of God. The guru is in there. Yeah. So he's saying exactly what you're saying, is that first you have to burrow into who you are. And who you are is not that personality, is not that thing that you're judging yourself so harshly for. You've got to appreciate who you are inside. And then it goes from there out. Yeah.
That was one of my greater unravelings, Parvati, was detaching, in essence, from those roles. I didn't understand. Someone asked, or maybe I was watching one of Ram's videos or whatnot, and it was the concept of, okay, well, I'll own it for myself, that if I take away that I'm a husband or a father or a podcaster and an author or a former pro athlete or someone who achieved A, B, C, D, E, the stuff that's in your bio, Kevin Miller has done X, Y, Z. If I take away all those, then who am I?
That's the question.
It was the most mind numbing, not numbing, just I stalled. I didn't have an answer. Like, what? A meaningless blob. I had no answer. And I very much disoriented myself around that answer, though I almost jointly kind of comforted myself. It was freeing because it's such an effort to keep up those roles as my core identity. So who am I outside of that? And am I correct that, Ram's answer is, his chosen answer is, I am loving awareness. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got to understand that the question, who am I, is an entire spiritual path. Ramana Maharshi, who that quote comes from, that practice comes from, that was the entire practice he gave to people, was to answer that question, who am I?
Yeah.
So it's not a nothing, it's a big deal to contemplate, who am I? Because once you start stripping away those roles, one by one, who am I if I'm not a mother, if I'm not a grandmother, if I'm not a writer, if I'm not a this, if I'm not a that? It's, it really takes time. It takes practice. It takes, whatever you want to call it, contemplation, introspection, meditation. It takes looking inside and continually stripping those away and coming back constantly to who am I? Who am I? Who am I? So, don't think there's an easy answer.
Well, I want to keep playing with it because in the book, I recall he said something to the effect of, oh, you want me to be Ram Dass? Okay, I can step in and do that for a little while. And so I took it on myself that I am still dad. I'm actually not dadding right now with you. But in a little while, when I go pick up kids from school, I will step into that role and fulfill the duties and do that. But to realize that is not the entirety of me. It does not, I want to say it just doesn't define me. It's just something that I participate in. Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you answer it, Parvati? Parvati, who are you?
Who am I? Well, fortunately, in the name that Maharaji gave me of Parvati, her symbolic meaning, Parvat in Hindi is mountain. Parvati is the daughter of the mountain. In the mythology, the mountain she is the daughter of is King Himavan, the Himalayas. Okay. And she becomes the wife of Lord Shiva. So I am symbolically the wife of God, just like Ram Dass is the servant of God. Das is a lineage of service, which was very much Maharaji's focus, which was, love and service. And which is bhakti yoga and karma yoga, the two paths that he gave us in terms of what you need to do to reach the answer to that question of who am I?
Would you, as somebody looks to give some verbiage to that question of who are you, if you take away the roles, that again, it doesn't mean that you discount or discard the roles, but can we say in essence, we're trying to transcend those, get back to the soul behind that? What are you? And so what is, and would you frame it as, what is an essence of you?
Well, Ram Dass put it this way. All of those parts of you, because they are parts of you, are things to dance lightly with. He always brought it back to that dance. You know, it's something, take it lightly. Yeah. It's I mean, the way I see it myself, if I go, who am I? Is imagining the being I am sitting in front of Maharaji, which was the experience of sitting in the presence of unconditional love. And in front of somebody who had no judgment of who you were, who knew exactly who you were and could tell you exactly, you know, what you were thinking, what you were feeling, all of that. In other words, you were seen completely. All of us want to be seen. We want you to see me, right? We want to be seen. We want to be known in that way with unconditional love. I see you completely and I totally love you. And one of the devotees said it really well. Larry Brilliant, who was one of the people who helped eliminate polio from India, actually. And he said, when I was in front of Maharaji, he said, well, Maharaji's job was to love us. After all, he was a saint. That was his job, to love us. He said what the real miracle was that in sitting in front of Maharaji, we all loved each other.
Yeah.
Because we were sitting in the presence of love. We were sitting in it like soup, you know. So what I see is that there is that inner core of me that was lovable enough to be in that, how do I say this? To be part of that experience of oneness.
Yeah.
To actually know what it felt to feel one with everyone around me. And I can go back to that feeling and know that I can touch into that place of oneness, of us. And that helps me deal with the place where I get into, oh, that idiot, you know?
That, okay, the oneness concept.
The oneness.
Is it also, is it parallel too, to say, because I find myself thinking of connectedness. I am connected. I want to be connected. I can stay connected. Even as you said, even with someone who I may not choose to engage with or expose myself to a whole lot for whatever reasons, but there's still a connectedness. Does that translate well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That we are all connected. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at some quantum level, I mean, even science is coming to say we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your description of Maharaji, I convict myself with. I want to be a person not who sits there and everybody loves. Can I be someone when people are in my presence, they love themselves? That's a whole new level. That's a paradigm shift.
Right.
To put it lightly.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. When you're part of that oneness, you are as loved as you are loving. You are love.
Mm-hmm.
You can't look at yourself and go, I don't like you, if you're loving yourself.
When you say, we all want to be seen, my first thought is, I don't think people do, but then you qualify it. We want to be seen with no judgment, with unconditional love, which I want to say, I don't want to say, I'm tempted to say most people have never experienced that.
Exactly.
So we're talking about something that is foreign to us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet, it's sort of the place that we all talk of as home. We all want to go home. We all want to be home. We all want to feel that we're at home. Wherever we are.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's that experience of being in the us, of being in the oneness, of being in a non-judgmental situation that can make us feel that we're at home. Because otherwise, we're all seeking constantly.
Okay. Thank you for saying that. I want to read a segment out of the book that
Sure.
I marked it up and I felt it was relevant here. Even that being home, I'm going to come back to self. If I'm going to be home anywhere, I've got to be home just with me, looking in the mirror, sitting with me. And I don't even know if I was uncomfortable with me. I just didn't consider me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a tool to do things. I'm a doer. I do stuff and then to stop and be present with myself. So on what you just said, being home, this is a section in the book called Self-Judgment that I pulled out. The fierceness of the judgment we have about ourselves is so unrelenting. Rather than looking at ourselves and saying, I am what I am and this is it. It's like a pine tree or an oak tree or a river or a stone. I am it. My humanity is part of what I am. Despite all the trainings and shoulds that were laid upon me, I am what I am. But the minute I think I am not enough, or feel I'm in a vulnerable position, I will be inclined to use everything in my environment to secure my position. I'll often judge things in ways to make myself feel more secure. I'll always use judgment in order to reinforce that deep place in myself where I feel strange or insecure. I just appreciated that. It helped me. I helped myself in reading that to look at, why do I judge?
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, is there any other reason other than to protect myself? Well, if I'm at home with me, I don't need to protect myself. Therefore, why would I judge? Again, it's saying it's a paradigm shift feels minimizing. It's just a different life experience. Yeah.
And now I'm sorry to tell you, but you're on the path that you'll be on for the rest of your life.
I'm getting that feeling, Parvati.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of giving up arriving. I don't think that'll happen. Here I am. Well,
drop perfectionism, drop a goal. This is it. It's Ram Dass saying, taking up Gandhi's thing of my life is my message. This is your life now.
it feels like it is adopting a life of many things, but of discovery, for one, of not arriving. I'll discover, who am I? This is what I understand today, what I can conceive of. But if I'm going to evolve, I don't know what won't change to that degree. So can I find, what I keep coming back to is security, and wanting to feel like, we innately as humans, we want to feel secure. Can I feel secure in the mystery, in essence? I even question that. I appreciate Alan Watts a lot and read his stuff. And he's got the book, The Wisdom of Insecurity. And his perspective is, there is no security, throw it out the door. And yet I find Ram as pretty secure people. It feels like they've found security in non-attachment, in non-clinging, in the mystery. How's that
Or in
sound?
the attempt to get there. Yes.
Okay.
None of these, if you were able to be a purely selfless, doing purely selfless service, you would have to be God. Okay. You would have to be a fully realized being. And what the path is just growing more and more in awareness as you go along, more and more mindful, so that you begin to see not only your actions, but your words, your thoughts even, is how do I turn them from being hurtful either to somebody else or to myself?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long road, but it's one that you constantly, that's why it's called practice. It's called spiritual practice. I
Yeah.
mean, as an athlete, you know that.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
practice.
love that. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
involved with a medical practice.
Yeah.
It's ongoing. It's contextual. It changes. It evolves. And as you said, Parvati, right there, the aspect of becoming more aware, more mindful, and them looking at, and then looking at, and less what? And, one of the primary focal points of the book is clinging, attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at that less. Can I be more, as I'm more aware, more mindful, I find myself letting go and being less clingy, less attachments has been such a big focus of mine. I pulled out a couple quotes from Ram in the book. He said, your own suffering is due to the clinging of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that I clinged to, Parvati, in my mind, it was mostly those roles. It was those roles. They defined, I didn't understand anything else. And so if me, the home of me, depends on fulfilling those roles, succeeding in those roles, then every day is a fight. Every day is a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Every day is an effort. And I'm
Right.
and really never home. Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
West, even just looking at the English language, everything is focused on doing. We're a language of verbs. Okay. And in Sanskrit, for example, there are 96 words for love. We have one. We love our hamburgers just the same as we love our kids. Okay.
Yeah.
There's one word for it. In Sanskrit, there is a different feeling and a different word for the love of God, for the love of my house, for the love of my country, for the love of my father, mother, child. I mean, each one is another aspect of love, because theirs is a language of being. Ours is a language of doing. And a lot of what you're talking about is the difference between doing and being.
Yeah.
And you have spent a lot of time mastering doing,
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
now
what life.
you're having this total shift in perspective. And from now on, what you're going to be concentrating on or looking for is, okay, how do I become more being? Yeah.
Yes. It sounds, even as we say it, it sounds so elementary, and yet it's completely flip-flopped my life. And it's not that I don't do, but I do a heck of a lot less. When I look at it and go, what am I doing? What's the feeling? What's the motive behind it? And if I can embody that or decide if I even want that feeling, if it's that necessary or worthwhile, one, and two, can I not just have that feeling right here, right now? What do I really need to do? My doing has been drastically cut. And I had this discussion the other day with a friend, Parvati, that I find myself when I'm doing something like tonight, when I will cook dinner, which I have great joy in doing. But if I just focus on the doing, I find myself in a hurry thinking about the end result, and I'll stop. Back to your being aware. I'll stop and go, this is what I'm doing. Right. This is what I'm being. This is it. Right now is it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Be aware of it. Slow down. Put your shoulders down, Kevin. Take a deep breath.
Yeah. It's like Ramdas talking about doing the dishes.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't stop doing. We can't. I mean, we're here. We have to do things. We have to eat. We have to feed our kids. We have to pick them up from school. We have things to do. We have to make enough money to pay the rent. All of that. But it's the way in which we do it.
Yeah.
If we can do it with more being, in other words, that's why people use something like mantra. because it's something that one part of your being stays grounded in the being of that mantra, while another part of you is washing the dishes. Or you can be doing like Sharon Salzberg's practice that, we have in the book there, which is loving kindness. It's like going to the grocery store. Yes, you have to go to the grocery store. You need groceries. But as you're going down the aisle and people are bashing their carts into you or whatever else is going on, you can be looking at each one and thinking, may you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be easeful of mind. There are ways to bring being into doing.
Yes. And if I don't, I am now gaining insight that I never will be. I never will be happy. I never will be peaceful. If it's always 5 steps forward, I never arrive. I'm pushing that feeling out there thinking I'm going to, again, arrive somewhere. If I can't be, I've really given focus to that. If I cannot be what do I want to be? Do I want to be happy? Do I want to be peaceful? Do I want to be fulfilled? If I can't do those right now, if I can't feel those, is any doing really going to help it arrive? Who was it? It was like, it's not Tolstoy, I don't think, but somebody said, hey, you want to be happy? Be happy. I remember reading that, and I didn't have the place to accept that at the time.
Right. Yeah. The West is so driven, to accomplishments, to outer accomplishments, to make more. It's like that part of the book where Ram Dass talks about, more. There's always more. There's the bath with bath oil, the bath with bath oil and incense, the bath with somebody else in it with you, on and on and on. There's always more. And then there's always, well, let's get it closer together. Once we get out of the bath, what are we going to do? Are we going to, watch a movie, eat some ice cream? What are we going to do? Bringing it closer and closer and closer without ever giving any space, any openness to, let's just relax and enjoy this. Let's just be here. Let's just be here.
Let's just be here. When we talk, Parvati, about the roles, again, going from role to soul, I found myself thinking as I was reading in the book that as much as we attach to those roles, we cling to those roles, that even more so, we tend to cling to our ideals, to our beliefs, the things that I found myself talking about things, somebody asking my opinion or perspective, and I'll share, well, it's my opinion. It's a perspective. That's what it is. It's not fact. And I'll also admit, I'm going to tell you something that I can't claim is true, but I can tell you, I'll admit I really want it to be true. So with that bias spoken, I'll offer what I can, but to own it in that sense and to not cling to the ideal, to the belief, to the thing that I want to be true. And again, in doing that, it's not semantics to me. I feel myself. Take a deep breath.
Take a breath. Yeah.
And peace, I verb it, but peace myself. I peace myself. So what a gift to let go. It doesn't mean that I don't feel strongly about something or feel confident or have faith or feel something's a good bet or whatever it may be, but to not have to have it be a truth, to prove it, to convince anyone.
No righteousness.
That's interesting you would use that word. I mean, me growing up in the Christian construct, and that's a word. I was supposed to be a righteous man. Literally. I mean, that's the word. I try to do things. And I mean, I do want to exude goodness and love,
Mhm.
but yeah, you're those things that we cling to. That was something I clung to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me read you something else here. Okay.
Please.
Um, to the extent that you are dancing in form, play the most fun game, which is dancing with the beloved, with love. So the earth is the beloved. Your enemies are your beloved. The other is the beloved. They are all the face of the beloved. And when you really love somebody, you really, really want them to be happy. It's not a bad gig to just hang out celebrating your beloved. The fact that you're not doing it all the time everywhere must be very hard for you. I wish you Godspeed. It's the journey I'm on. I don't know what else to do in form but dance with the beloved. In other words, it's take it easy. Take it as the dance. Take it as wanting to dance in love, in being.
Okay. A couple
Yeah.
things on that then.
Yeah.
To do that, to embody that, to be that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm able to if I am caught up in protecting myself. Again, back to that. If I'm going to dance with the beloved, I've got to let go of the things I'm clinging to. And I do tend to come back to that self-protection. And he writes about it in the book that I've been intrigued for a while with how much of our energy goes towards our protection. If we really dissect the things that we do, the things that we say, so much of it, it was for me. I feel like I perceive that in a lot of other people, but I can own it for me. When I gained this awareness, realized how much I couldn't dance with the beloved. I'm way too busy taking care of
Right.
protecting myself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying that this is where Ram Dass ended. Okay. And it took a lot to get there. I'm not saying that this is what you should be feeling now. None of us.
Well, I'm on the journey.
But you're on the journey, and I just want to show you that it's a worthwhile path.
Yeah.
It's a worthwhile
I would say,
journey.
Parvati, that even reading the book, there's so much that I feel resonance with, and feel like to some degree, I hope, and I feel like I get it, at least up here in my head. I get it. And then, but the ongoing integration into the rest of me, into my heart, takes a while for me.
Oh, it takes a while for all of us.
Okay.
Hey, you're talking to somebody who's been doing this for well over 50 years. Okay. It's not like, and I'm certainly nowhere near done with judgment with others or myself. I'm nowhere done with any of that. Yeah. But at least when I do it, I can see myself doing it. I've reached some level of awareness where I'm aware of when I am doing something that is not the optimal for my own being.
Can I say you're aware of your motive of why?
Well, maybe not in that moment.
Okay.
But upon reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like, but if I find myself wanting to scream some obscenity at somebody on the television, for example. Okay. I'm not thinking about, I'm scared that this person is going to hurt me and hurt those people I love in some way. It's not that I'm aware of that as a motive. I'm aware that maybe what I should be doing is giving that person the love that they have obviously lacked in their life.
Goodness. Parvati, let me ask you, well, kind of in regards to the dancing with the beloved. Well, or let's say the concept of Ram, and you said, or I paraphrase, not clinging, and we could say holding lightly to a degree, I guess. I'm going to butt it. But
well, I know I can and it. And my experience with him, which is very remote compared to yours, is that it's not that he didn't, well, you tell me, take things seriously or at least feel deeply.
Oh, God, yes.
Well, tell me about that, because you could easily come over here to the person. They're so self-aware. They're so self-realized that nothing bothers them. And that's not what I experience with such people. They feel deeply. Things have much gravity, but help us hold both of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, let me tell you that, Ram, which is what you keep calling Ram Dass, please use Ram Dass, because Ram is the name of God. Ram Dass is the servant of God. And Ram Dass really came to understand that it was through service that he was going to be able to deal with all his own stuff. Okay. And service can be anything. You're doing service by, having a podcast. You're bringing new concepts to people who may not have heard them before. You're opening people up. So if you can see what you're doing as a service, as part of your dharma is one of those untranslatable words, but it sort of means right action. It's something that is true on all levels. Okay. I may be getting way out of field here.
No, I want to expound on that. On really what you just said, because even you saying I'm serving others with the podcast. I hope I always have. I have testimony from a lot of people for a long time that I have. However, well, here, let me read a section out of the book, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
This is out of the mindful service chapter in the book. It's chapter 4. So you have written from Ram Dass. For example, he talked about serving, giving somebody food. Well, of course you want to give people food, but where you give the people food from, determines whether you feed their stomach or feed their freedom. And he said, I saw that I was feeding stomachs, but not freedom, and that it wasn't an either or, it was a both and, but I hadn't gotten my act together because I was still somebody doing something. Back to my podcast that you mentioned. I've had great people on with great messages and offerings forever. But there was a time when I shifted, Parvati, from trying to do a good show as a big motive, doing a good show, asking good questions, being charismatic, yada, yada, to I just don't have the energy or don't care to talk unless I care personally, unless it's a topic that I'm curious about, that matters to my life, is relevant to my life, and that I would want to pass on to my kids. I would want them to hear this if it's not. And that shift, well, first off, I helped myself with it a lot.
Right.
My interest in the shows, my own energy and my own desire to do them. And then the testimony I heard, I think, goes to that I stopped just feeding stomachs and also fed freedom. I stopped just feeding people's ears and also fed their souls. I hope. Sure did for me, at least.
Yeah. Well, you're doing very much what Ram Dass did in his life, which was he used his own stuff as he went along as the fodder for what he taught. It was, he was always very honest about what he was going through. I mean, he talks in the book about, going to a porno movie theater, right? Standing in line in front of the porno theater when somebody comes up and goes, Ram Dass? Like, what are you doing there? But he's always using his own life and his own interest and his own desires to learn more about something as part of where he takes us along. We went on his journey. His life was his message. And that's what you're doing. You're taking your life, going, here I am. I was, this athlete. I was the, business person. I was the father of 9 kids. I mean, that's a lot of fathering,
Yeah.
And taking all of that and sharing it to the point where people can see what are the lessons you're learning from that.
It's that, I have people respond to that as much as anything when I share the personal stories and the personal, just like that, from the book. Yeah. You talking about Ram Dass using his own stories. And the one story he was with Maharaji and was being guided to love everyone and speak the truth. I've told that story, Parvati, to friends, that's what got him. And then he realized the truth. Well, the truth is I hate all these people. I'm so tired of them. And I so appreciated the honesty, the humanity, and again, self-awareness of not being blinded by those things that we're clinging to. Being able to step back and just be, we've got this we have for, a while now, cultural appetite, it seems, or at least speaking to being authentic. I think we have no idea what being authentic even means. What does that mean? I think the best we've gotten to is I'm just going to be raw and unfiltered. Well, you're being a jerk. That's not the authenticity we're looking for. It's to let go of, again, I feel like back to protecting ourselves, and can I be free of that so I can be free for you? This, we could talk for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I am so honored to be promoting this message and helping people get access to this. So much of it, I do. Here's another quote though that I feel for me undergirds so much of the message. Ram said, "You work on yourself spiritually," and I'm going to add in, work on you, work on your stuff, work on this stuff that you're protecting yourself with and you're attached to. So he said, you work on yourself spiritually as an offering to your fellow beings. Until you are free, all your acts are colored by your attachments. Parvati, it's kind of the mic drop for me of the essence. Well, not the essence of the book, the essence of what maybe I need right now from that. Cause I look and I'm not going to discount all I've done for 54 years and for 9 kids. And now for Grant, I'm not discounting that. There's plenty I did that I think was a great offering, but it was, I view those offerings as they were all colored. They were all colored, and that coloring, I burnt myself out. I embittered myself with a lot of that coloring, from my attachments, a lot of that clinging. And I feel a new, to use the old cliche, it's a new lease on life, it's a new life. It's a different life.
Well, thank your father.
Yeah.
It was him coming to terms with his own mortality and realizing that the importance of the ending was actually the spiritual that brought you this opportunity.
Well, thanks for that offering, Parvati. Yeah. It's I've opened myself up to so much, and my level of peace, fulfillment, joy, and connectedness to everything and everyone, my kids. I've never felt more connectedness and such a different experience, the being versus the doing.
Well, they're lucky to have you as their father.
Well, goodness. Thank you. Hey, thank you. I do. I just want to thank you for the work that you have, for the work you've done. I don't want to frame it that way. Thanks for being. Thanks for the being that
there
you've been. But there was some doing and putting this book together and bringing it forth. I'm so grateful. I'm going to keep, this is my memento, is this old tattered now galley copy that I've marked up.
Oh, you see, my book has all the little tabs in it.
Yeah. I'm just grateful. I'm rereading it for a second time already. I went through and read it the first time, and maybe I'll go through and actually with the hardback this time and mark it up some more and continue to evolve with the message. But I'm grateful to have received it for myself. I'm grateful to share it with my family, and then grateful to put it out to this audience. It's a message that I don't know if I feel there's another message that's more important at the ground level. So thank you.
You're welcome. And,
thank you, Parvati.
May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you live with ease of heart. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, friends, thanks for joining us in this discussion. The book, again, from Ram Dass, put together by Parvati Markus, who you just heard, is There Is No Other: The Way to Harmony and Wholeness. Again, you can find all you want. Well, type in Ram Dass anywhere, but the website, ramdass.org. Till next time, here is to the evolving you.
Yeah.